Greetings everyone, my name is Greg. In this video I am going to talk about the concept of hell and why it is a critical part of Christianity. That if you call yourself a Christian and you reject this notion of hell, you can't be a Christian. Because this is a core part of what Jesus taught. And it is one of the things, one of many, that show just how evil Jesus was. Because this idea of a place of burning fire. Now, this is termed where you go after you're dead. And it makes me wonder if Christians really understand what death is. They want to talk and run their mouth about things that are spiritual. But what is spiritual? Because the depictions in these pictures don't show a spiritual person. That's showing a physical person. That's showing somebody as they are in life, physically. Which is it, Christians? The Christians that are going to dislike this. Which is it? Is hell spiritual or physical? If it is physical, fucking prove it. We're in a physical world. If this hell is physical and is going to be made up of a chemical reaction of physical elements that create fire, that is maintained by physical oxygen, then you need to be able to physically prove that this physical place physically exists. It's just that simple. If you're going to try and say it's spiritual, then it can't be fire. Because fire simply can't exist in a spiritual, whatever the fuck that is, sense. You can't have the physical combustion happening in a spiritual environment. You're trying to mix and flip-flop the aspect of spiritual, physical. Which is it? Make up your damn mind. This is where people back thousands of years ago, they couldn't get it. Because all they knew was this. Fire hurts the physical body. Absolutely. The reason it hurts the physical body is we have nerve endings underneath our skin, in our body, running all through us. Nerves that send signals to our brain. Without that, a person cannot feel pain. My uncle is a quadriplegic because of a bicycle accident. He has no feeling below chest down. He literally, there was one point he was in his wheelchair, his foot was dragging. He didn't feel it. He lost some of his toes because he didn't feel it. If the nerves are not getting the signal to the brain of, ow, that fucking hurts, you're not going to know, you're not going to feel pain. Because the nerve endings are not sending the signal to the brain. That being said, nerve endings and the brain are both physical. Upon death, they cease to function just like the rest of the body. It rots, it goes back to worm food, and that's all there is. There is no aspect of feeling pain or pleasure after you're dead. If you want to try and say that there is a spiritual anything, one, you have to prove that. That is a claim that you are making that atheists and skeptics like me say, I don't believe your claim. Where is the evidence to support your claim? If you have no evidence to support your claim is meaningless. This idea of spiritual is a puff of smoke in a grassy knoll. The thing is, Fire can't exist. But it's worse than the aspect of, let me just, before I bring up the website that I'm going to be referencing in this, I want you to see this guy, because this is the jackass that wrote the article that I'm going to be referencing. And before I get into that, I want to briefly show you, these are the comments that were left 2 years ago. All of these people are Christians. Every single one of them go along with this idea. Or if they don't, like you see this one Dan questioned, do you really believe God would torture his creation in such a place? Now, these people later on, well, like this person right here, you make the demonic mistake of thinking God is like mankind. I'm sorry, if this God does not have basic ethics, basic empathy, it's not higher than us, it's lower than us. To act like God is holy, why? Upon what evidence? If you're trying to say behaving like this is what makes someone holy, that's not holy. Unless you're talking wholly evil. But in a spiritual sense, the idea of fire is wholly impossible. Because fire simply cannot exist outside of a physical world, a physical dimension. The thing is, all of these people, these Christians, will defend their torturous ideas, their what could be termed satanic ideas. It's deplorable. It makes me nauseous to see these people literally excusing and justifying and acting as if this, and this one here is what I call the most offensive of all. God doesn't send anyone to hell. People send themselves there by rejecting his salvation. Bullshit. Fucking bullshit. First of all, Jesus was never a God. These Christians are fucking stupid. If the God of the Bible, if the God of this shit would exist, it's not Jesus. It would be the God of the Old Testament. And that bastard made it clear that no one can pay the sins of another. And I'll just jump to that quick so you can see it. None of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give God a ransom for him. The idea that God, the God of the Bible, had as its plan this idea of a scapegoat is not biblical. It is what would be termed blasphemous. Because Jesus, in all actuality, if you're going by the Torah and Tanakh, the Old Testament, the covenant that was established by this God. And let me touch on this aspect of covenant. Because these Christians want to act like the covenant, there's a new covenant. That is pure bullshit. Because instead of the word covenant, I'm going to do a search on, because it's related to, it's the same, comes up, but Genesis 9:16. And I will look upon it, and that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of flesh upon the earth. Everlasting covenant means it's a covenant that's eternal. You won't need a second covenant, a new covenant, when you have an everlasting one. Christians want to ignore the everlasting part and act as if they need to have a new covenant for some fucking reason. You don't. If you're going by the Bible, this shit, then you have an everlasting covenant in Judaism. So Christians, are you converting to Judaism now and rejecting your Jesus as the idol he is? The golden calf that you made him out to be? Because if you believe the God of the Old Testament exists, it does not like people worshiping idols. It sure as fuck doesn't like people making gods out of people, out of humans. It really has a problem with people making a god out of others. This god has killed thousands in one shot because people were worshiping another god. This guy is extremely insecure. If you are one that believes this God exists, you better goose step as it fucking says. Because it's a fucking prick. However, for as much of a prick as it is, there is the aspect, the only place where, to use the term Gehenna, is mentioned. And it's not mentioned specifically. It is and it isn't. It's not mentioned in the term Gehenna because that's a Greek word. However, it is called the Valley of the Son of Hinnom. And this is one that is extremely important for Christians. And they built the high place of Baal, which are in the Valley of the Son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and daughters to pass through the fire unto Moloch, which I commanded them not, neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin. Now, this is putting aside the aspect of Jephthah and his daughter. Because even, like when I had interviewed Mark Powers, he had said, Jews aren't even sure that actually happened. That could very well just be a story that somebody told. Be that as it may, that is neither here nor there in this aspect. But if you want to try and say the aspect of hell was planned by this God for Satan and his angels, as you'll see in that stupid website, the problem with that, all through the Old Testament, Satan is an angel of the God. He is doing the will of the God. He is fulfilling the role that he was created to be, which is that of adversary. And the adversary aspect is not an adversary to the God, because he can only be what he was made to be, according to the story. It is Christians that have taken and made Satan into this. King James is the one that came up with this Lucifer idea. It was never the name of Satan. The thing is, this idea of God versus Satan, right in there you have a dual deity idea. You have a dueling opposites. The dueling opposites come from Zoroastrianism around the 7th century BC. It was Zoroaster that put forward the idea of an all-good God. Because prior to Zoroaster, in various religions, be it the Greek with Zeus, the aspect with Osiris and Isis, as well as all the other El and Asherah, which were in the Canaanite pantheon, which is actually where the Jews got the name of their god. The thing is, they all had basically dual natures, dual aspects in themselves. They could be both good and bad. It would depend on how you approach them, how you interact with them. Like the aspect of the Norse god Odin. He was basically a vicious son of a bitch if you pissed him off. Much like a lot of any of the gods of the ancient world, they were both good and bad. It wasn't until Zoroaster that you have this divide. And you have one that is supposed to be all good and the other that's supposed to be all evil. The problem with the all one way or all the other is nobody is all good or all evil. Nobody. I would contend it is impossible. We are all basically a mixture of basically the yin and yang. That the ideal would be to live in balance, to have basically a perfect mixture of good and bad, light and dark. Because in different aspects of life, it requires different responses. The aspect of, and I'll touch on this briefly, the idea of if you're going to be protecting somebody, if you're a bodyguard for someone, you are not going to look like a nice, sweet, cuddly person to everyone. Because if somebody would be trying to hurt the one your job is to protect, you would not look like a nice, sweet, cuddly teddy bear. What they would see could be a vicious monster. Because they are attempting to harm the one you are tasked to protect. If there would be, to use the term, angels, demons, that type of shit, I contend the aspect of an angel and a demon would all be dependent upon how are you approaching them. If they would have this task of protecting somebody, if you're trying to attack somebody that they're sent and their mission is to protect, do you think they're going to be coming at you looking like a nice, sweet, cuddly angel? Or could you be seeing a vicious demon? And it's not based on them, it's based on you. It is based on how you are acting. What you are doing determines what side of them you see. I don't believe such exist. However, you have to look at things in a sense in context of a story. That is where I think stories like Pinhead, Hellraiser, Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael Myers, all of those that have the supposed evil figure is all evil. It's not accurate. It simply would not be the way anything would be. Because even the nastiest of people would have those that they weren't nasty to. They would have those that they were, in a sense, buddies with, friends with. The thing is, these different depictions in fiction make these certain characters, in a sense, one-dimensional in the aspect of they're only evil. They're only this one way. And that's painfully one-dimensional. They don't have other dimensions to their character. And the thing is, everyone does. Even a serial killer would have different aspects of their personality. Like someone like the Iceman, Richard Kuklinski. Yeah, he was a brutal sociopath to those that he would have had, to use the term, that he'd be getting paid to kill. The thing is, for him, it was a job. He had a family, he had a wife, he had kids that he loved. They saw a completely different side of him than the one that was seen by those that he was hired to kill. It's not to excuse his behavior, not at all. The thing is, it is just to show that there's more than one aspect of a person, of anyone. Even someone that's completely off their fucking tree, Charles Manson, there would be those like the ones that followed him, that they looked at him as a type of Messiah. You don't have anyone that is all bad, all good. It just doesn't exist. It can't. The thing is, this idea of torturing somebody in an afterlife, the fantasies of an afterlife are bullshit. Because after you're dead, there is absolutely no reason to believe anyone would continue to have any type of life, because everything we know that makes up what life is ends at death. That's what death means. You can't make up some woo-woo bullshit and try to act like it's valid. Now, just to show you guys this is the aspect of how hell comes up in the Old Testament, in Hebrew. It is Sheol, which is very simply the grave. Hades, or the underworld of the world of the dead. Basically, the grave, hell, pit. It is what the Egyptians, what basically people thought of back in the ancient world before the aspect of like Zoroaster and that shit. The thing is, for people to try and say, Christians to try and say, that a lake of fire hell was created to be a certain way, no. But when you get into the aspect of the claims regarding hell, there is a clear problem that is brought in that Christians don't realize this, and the people that made this shit up long ago definitely didn't realize this. Having brimstone in there puts a temperature limit, a threshold of hell cannot be hotter than this. Because brimstone is sulfur, and it turns to a gas at 444 degrees Fahrenheit. And it is something that is mentioned. I did another video where I mentioned about which is hotter, heaven or hell. And this gets into a comical aspect where it says about the light of the sun is sevenfold as the light of 7 days. Thus, heaven would be pretty much 49 times as hot as Earth is now. And you can figure out the global temperature average and then multiply that by 49 times, which is where they come up with the 525 degrees Celsius for heaven. And in case anybody is curious, 525 is 977 degrees Fahrenheit. But Christians, maybe it's a dry heat. Whereas hell, because of the aspect of brimstone, can be no more than 444.6 degrees Celsius. So just in the Celsius, heaven is hotter than hell. Which it'll also work out with Fahrenheit as well, because if you have 444.6 is 832.28. The thing is, that is the maximum that hell could be and still have this brimstone bullshit. The problem with people like this jackass that tries to say in this stupid website that hell is in the center of the earth. He actually claims that. Yeah, in his point 4, hell is currently located right below your feet in the heart of the earth. Bullshit. Motherfucking bullshit. This shows that this jackass does not know what the temperature of the core of the earth is. This I looked up in Live Science. And the temperature, scientists realized, they found out, they kind of, oops, we fucked up. Earth's core is 1,000 degrees hotter than expected. And this is from 2013, by the way. But that is a picture that shows the Earth. The aspect of you have the solid core, and then there's the liquid core around it. This jackass is wanting to try and say that, I guess this part in here is where hell would be. Bullshit. Because it's 1,000 degrees hotter than we had previously thought, which 1,000 degrees is more than what the maximum temperature could be in Fahrenheit. Thing is, and that's 1,000 degrees Celsius, which is 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, and just actually 1832 Fahrenheit. Not that 32 degrees would matter all that much at that point. The thing is, and I can close that one, it is now estimated at 6,000 degrees Celsius. $10,832. That's over 10,000 degrees hotter than what brimstone could be at. Because if you remember, 832 was the maximum, 832.28. Having it 6,000 degrees Celsius has it literally 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than it could be. Even at 832 degrees, you wouldn't survive. Physical body, there would be no flesh in that aspect. It just couldn't exist. Even that would be inaccurate. The aspect of the looking like a black chart, no. You would not even have that much solidity. You would literally be turned into vapor yourself. There would be nothing left. And you wouldn't even get down to where the fire actually is. Because if you've ever burned anything, there is a pocket of hot air that as you're going towards a fire, you will be getting closer. It'll be getting hotter and hotter as you go down. The human body would not survive in order to even reach that point. So all of this, it's empty threats. Add to it the aspect of no central nervous system, no functioning brain, you have nothing. All of these so-called threats, they are threats, but their doctrine and so forth, it's crap. It is absolute crap. Because the idea that God didn't want you to burn in hell, that's why he shed every drop of his blood. He didn't. God is not a man or son of a man. This is something people like, Christians like this are intent on making Jesus into a God. They want to ignore God is not a man, neither son of man. That rips out the idea of Jesus completely. There are so many things in the Old Testament that completely rip out the idea of Jesus. You can't have that golden calf meaning anything. It's immoral. And it doesn't work with your Bible. The thing is, these people like this, they don't want to see that. That doesn't fit their narrative. Because in order to push their agenda, you have to have this sadistic shit. Without the threat of being tortured, what incentive is there? What reason is there for somebody to buy into Christianity? What possible reason could somebody have other than a stupid fear that shows they don't understand basic chemistry, basic physics? The basic fact of, if you want to put out a fire, the easiest way to do it is take away its goddamn oxygen. And for those that are wondering about the sun is not really a fire in that aspect. It is more like a nuclear bomb. It is a hydrogen bomb. The thing is, fire, a ball of fire, is literally something that is burning in the aspect of fire and brimstone. There's no brimstone on the sun, because the core of the earth is estimated to being around, it mentions in here about that it's pretty much almost like the temperature of the sun. But what's really interesting when you get into the aspect of at the center of the down towards the core, the scientists have estimated the boundary between the Earth's inner core and outer core is a searing 10,832 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take 930 degrees, at a pressure of 3.3 million atmospheres, or 3.3 million times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. You would be crushed like a grape. Not only would you be unable to, your body would be vaporized, as well as being crushed into flatter than a fucking pancake at 3.3 million atmospheres of pressure. This is the absurdity. Any Christian want to try and tell me that hell's in the center of the earth, you're a fucking moron. You do not know science. Science has disproven your bullshit. The aspect, if there is anyone that has walked away from Christianity, a new atheist, if you have any fear of hell, let this just really sink in. Because if this doesn't make you laugh, I don't know what will. Even just putting aside the temperature aspect, just look at the fucking pressure. It is not possible for anything physical to exist there. Nothing. And the aspect of spiritual, prove it. I have seen no evidence to support that any spiritual anything can exist. Simply doesn't work. But one thing I'll have in the comment section, I'll have both of these links. You can check out this stupid jackass's crap as well as live science. But this was just a matter of typing in Celsius to Fahrenheit, and you can pull up that it'll give you that, and you can check it for yourself. And I would encourage people, check this shit for yourself. Look at the numbers for yourself. This is not hard. The idea that there is some kind of lake of fire that people will go to if they don't think the right thing, that is obnoxiously stupid. But this is the type of bullshit that led to the Inquisitions. Let's be clear on exactly what this type of mindset leads to. Because while it is impossible in an afterlife sense of there being a heaven or hell, in the aspect of sheer physics, it doesn't work. But also, I lost my train of thought, but it shows they don't understand science. It shows they do not understand reality. We can't exist in that type of environment. And the idea of, like, the Inquisitions, these people want to have, okay, I found my train of thought. It's not bad enough that they think this will happen to people like me in an afterlife. And yes, I'm wearing this shirt intentionally. The thing is, what a person would go along with in the idea of an afterlife, if they'll go along with it in the idea of it happening in a fictional afterlife, they'll go along with it happening in real life. That is why I say Christianity is a virus that needs to be wiped out. Because it pushes a mindset of torture is acceptable. But I challenge any Christian, what does torture teach? What does torture change? What does torture prove? I contend the answer to all three of those is nothing, nothing, nothing. It doesn't change a goddamn thing. It doesn't prove a goddamn thing. And it doesn't teach a goddamn thing. All it shows is how sick and evil you are. Christians, don't try telling me or any other atheist how you have fucking morals, when your core doctrine is one of immorality. It is offensive. Feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Later, people.